My question for you is, what would the first month of a Shapiro presidency look like?
So first of all, a lot fewer executive orders. I'm not a huge fan of executive orders because I think that executive orders, especially if you have Congress, I mean, right now he's got a majority in Congress, so you should be able to pass some pretty significant laws. First order of business on an executive level, I think a lot of what Trump is doing, as far as attempting to build up the military is correct. I think slashing regulations is correct. I think that an attempt to restructure entitlements would be very high on the priority list. If you're going to do it early in your presidency, obviously, because you're going to feel blowback for doing it. And if we don't fix the entitlement problem, then the government's basically done. I mean, 80% of our budget is entitlements, essentially. Only 20% is defense. I would have a basic rule. And the basic rule would be I will not sign any bill that is longer than 3 pages and not in plain language. I want the American people to understand what it is that people are voting for and what they're signing. I would also fire half the executive branch immediately. I would disband not just 3 departments, I would disband a lot of departments. And I won't bother naming them because oops. So I would get rid. I think that government by executive fiat is gross. I don't think that's what the presidency was designed to do. And I would try to take structural measures to undermine the power of the federal government so that the person who came after me could not revamp it. I would devolve a lot of power to the states. I would devolve a lot of power to localities. As I say, I would try to break the public sector unions as fast as possible because I think that they're bankrupting the country. And a lot of the stuff I could do inside the executive branch would be stuff addressed to the executive branch. So it wouldn't be addressed to areas that Congress has already spoken on. But I would disband the EPA. I would disband the Department of Education. I would disband the Department of Energy. If Congress wants to pass laws along those lines, Congress can damn well pass laws along those lines. But the idea that a bunch of unelected bureaucrats are supergiant experts in all this stuff, and they get to make all the regulations and rules without ever having to be exposed to the public eye, I think that's really gross. So that would be, as president, I think that's the first job of the president. The president really has 2 jobs under the Constitution, right? It's to enforce the laws and to make sure that we have national security. Those are really his 2 big jobs under the Constitution, and those would be the 2 that I take seriously. I would be maybe the first president in history trying to undermine the power of the executive branch on behalf of the legislature and simultaneously strengthen the military on behalf of national security.